Hi, how's it going, folks? So, if you own firearms, if you're interested in firearms, if you oppose gun control, you're not a psycho. I know there has been, over the time I've been in this discussion, plenty of those accusations that get thrown around. Now, what's inspired this talk is a recent Twitter tirade from a Democrat politician from New York by the name of Nate McMurray. Well, in this tirade, he said, "We want to infringe on psychos with arsenals in their basement." Well, I happen to be a guy who owns a basement. The house came with the basement. I happen to own a bit of firearms, a nice little collection there, and I happen to store a good chunk of that collection in this basement. So I kind of take exception to Nate McMurray's tweet. Fact of the matter is that people like Nate McMurray don't really believe that we're psychos, criminals, terrorists, or any other sort of danger to society. They just don't approve of our behavior. And here's indeed how you can tell that it's simply something they don't approve of versus something that's actually a danger. My fellow firearms enthusiasts who've been at it for a while, you remember what happened when you first started in your interest in firearms? If you were like me, now I started at a young age, so some of this might not apply to some people who started later in life. Some of it most definitely probably will, but I remember having an interest in firearms before I turned 18. Back while I was still in school. I remember a couple of people in my life telling me, well, hey, you want to be careful about that talk of firearms. People are going to think you're a school shooter. Keyword. People are going to think you're going to go on a school shooting. And of course, when I became of age, of to be able to buy my own firearms, well, one of my first my first rifle purchase was an AR-15, but you had people who said, well, you should be careful about buying that type of firearm. People are going to think you're a criminal or a terrorist. You should be careful about buying all these firearms here. The ATF is going to put you on a watch list and raid your home. Even though I'm acting within the bounds of the law, you know, you had people that said this. And don't get me wrong, I don't put it past several people in government uh, to do something like this. Government does attract control freaks who love nothing more than to abuse power. Hence, why our founders made us a constitutional republic, not an oligarchy, not a monarchy, not a democracy. They wanted to limit the power of government. Specifically, the Anti-Federalists created the Bill of Rights, specifically with these types of people in mind. It's why the Second Amendment says shall not be infringed. They didn't want to give any wiggle room whatsoever. So, unfortunately, we haven't done, well, previous generations have not done such a good job at upholding the Constitution, obviously, because there have been people in government that have taken that wiggle room. And despite getting that little bit, saying, okay, you know what? We got some restrictions in, guys, even though the Constitution says no, we're still going to do it anyway. Right, but back on my, original point, as a firearms enthusiast, you've probably had some people in your life that weren't as big into firearms at all that have said something like that to you. You know what I've never heard of? I've never heard of anybody pulling a gun controller aside and saying, "Hey, you might want to be careful about pissing off these gun nuts. They're wackos, they're psychos, and you don't want any of them to come down and kill you." You don't hear anything like that, do you? Um, Nate McMurray himself in that little Twitter tirade challenged somebody to a duel. Now, obviously, we know he's not serious about that, but still, I mean, you're challenging people to duels on the internet who are these psychos with arsenals in their basement. Do you really think that's a wise choice? Unless, however, you know that these people really aren't so unhinged, that you know that these people are actually not going to be the types of people who are going to fly off the handle and come hunt you for sport. So, another way you can tell if somebody's got a bunch of guns and they've been collecting guns for quite some time. I mean, they were that unhinged. If they were psychos, don't you think they would have done something with those guns by now? Furthermore, if it was us psychos with guns, don't you think that our homicide rate would be far higher than it is? I mean, if you had, all of us gun collectors were psychos with guns, don't you think, that we'd really do some serious damage here? And the fact of the matter is that it's not the case of what these guys say at all. Um, you know, these people love to throw around sayings like, well, everyone's a good guy with a gun until they're not, and trying to make the implication that, oh, well, you can just turn into a bad guy at any possible time. Well, if you're really so afraid of that, why are you going around prodding them? Why are you going around calling them psychos? Why are you sitting there saying, oh, well, you guys have tiny penises? You seem to be talking about our members all the damn time. Now, yeah, obviously we know you're full of shit, but this goes back to a common tactic the gun control side loves to do: shame. They want you to be afraid to engage in an activity that you enjoy. They want you to be afraid to exercise a right that you have value in, that you particularly value, I should say. They want you to shut up when it comes time for them to further infringe upon this right. And this is what it boils down to. Because if they really thought you were a psycho, well, I guarantee you they wouldn't be talking that way to you. If they thought for 1 second you were going to fly off the handle and just go and gun them down, they'd treat you with a little bit more respect. Well, maybe I wouldn't call it respect so much as they'll keep their mouth shut out of fear of their own safety and out of fear of what you might do to them if they honestly believed you were a psycho yourself. So don't ever let these people tell you you're wrong, you're crazy, or you're off because you have an interest in firearms. You have an interest in firearms that they don't particularly like, and that you want to collect firearms. And for anybody who has a disagreement with anything I say, you have the comments down below. I do read them. So, y'all take her easy out there and have a great day.